In the tangled heart of the Louisiana Bayou, where the dense cypress canopy lets in only fragments of moonlight, stories are passed from generation to generation, stories of ancient evils and mysterious protectors, of things unseen and legends that stalk the marsh. Swamp water laps at decaying tree trunks, and every sound is magnified by the thick, wet air. The dull buzz of insects, the distant croak of a bullfrog, and sometimes the soft rustle of something large moving between reeds. It is a place that both people and creatures call home, but not all that roam here are of this world. For years, the locals whispered about a shadow in the swamp that appeared only on nights when the moon was full. Some say it was a cursed soul seeking redemption, others that it was an ancient guardian keeping balance in this wild corner of the world. But to the handful of seasoned hunters who now prowled the bayou, there was no question. A werewolf haunted these lands, and they intended to end its reign of terror. 3 of them stepped from their battered airboat into the thick mud of the bayou's edge. Each carried the marks of past encounters, scars on their faces, silver-trimmed weapons at their belts, a wary exhaustion in their eyes. They were united by the same purpose, a calling that drew them deep into the wilds, night after night, in search of the untamed and the unnatural. Tonight, though, the old rules would be challenged. The hunters became the hunted as the air grew thick with a sense of dread, heavier with each step they took beneath the gnarled trees. This was the werewolf's realm, old as the land itself, shaped by the push and pull between the moon's ominous glow and the impenetrable shadows below. The beast knew every coiling strand of moss, every root and slithering vine. Unseen, the werewolf moved, its senses heightened, following the coppery scent of fear and human sweat. It remembered pain, remembered the bright sting of silver and the hateful glare of torchlight from hunts long past. It moved with a lethal, practiced silence, padded feet barely disturbing the mossy ground. It saw the world through eyes adapted to the pitch-black gloom. Every heart that beat within the swamp's radius pulsed a message. It could read with chilling clarity. The hunters fanned out, one holding a battered lantern aloft, beams wavering as the shadows danced. They called softly to each other, code words and hand signals, trained not to be heard by prey or predator. They had tracked the creature for weeks. Signs of its passing were written in broken saplings, half-eaten deer, the heavy prints sunk into the river mud. Stories from the nearest village told that it walked like a man by day, perhaps passing as a traveler or a trapper, only to spiral into unholy form beneath the moon's gaze. They shook away chills, recalling the warning from a local woman, her voice threadbare with fear. In the bayou, it's not you who hunts. Out here, the land itself chooses the hunter. The werewolf watched from a low rise, golden eyes glinting as it studied the 3. It understood their every feint and tactic, how they moved to circle and flush out their quarry, how they relied on the hope of numbers and weaponry. But the animal within was tireless, and instinct told it when to wait and when to strike. Tonight, the roles would be reversed, not as a triumph of malice, but as a lesson written in tooth and claw. Thunder rumbled in the distance. The first hunter veered near a tangled mass of cypress knees, careful to keep his boots from the deeper, sucking mud. He cocked his rifle, a weapon, he believed, fit for any monster. There was a sudden shift in the air, a ripple of movement behind him, quieter than a falling leaf. Too late, he turned. A massive shape detached itself from the gloom, its fur slick with swamp water, its fanged jaws open in a silent snarl. Panic lent him speed, but not enough. The lantern crashed to the ground, rolling and sputtering, as the first hunter vanished into the shadows. The second, hearing the struggle, spun around, weapon raised. He glimpsed the creature only by the way the reeds parted, impossibly large and swift. He fired, the shot echoing across the drowned forest, scattering birds from their perches. In his heart, hope flickered. Perhaps he had wounded it. But when he peered into the darkness, there was only silence and the return of the normal Bayou sounds, layered atop the heavy thump of his own heartbeat. As the fog thickened, the second hunter retreated and regrouped with the third, the youngest of the trio, eager and untested. They whispered, strained to see through the mist. "We make for the boat," the elder hissed, voice shaking with more than just cold. They pressed back together, eyes searching, nerves fraying as the feeling of being observed grew unbearable. Stealth was the werewolf's ally, patience its greatest weapon. It knew the land slipping between roots and shadows, always out of sight, always closer than the hunters dared imagine. In this ancient game, it did not need to rush. The swamp was a living labyrinth of mist and mud, where even time seemed to slow in deference to old magic. When the two hunters neared the water, they found their path blocked by a wall of reeds so thick that even their blades could not cut through quickly. Panic rose. They argued in frantic whispers while watching the darkness for any sign of movement. The younger one, clutching his silvered knife, tried to summon the courage he'd trained so long to possess. Then, with the endless patience of a predator, the werewolf made its move. It burst from the shadows with terrifying speed, claws flashing in the dirty moonlight, fur bristling, breath steaming in the cool air. The older hunter raised his rifle in vain. The beast was already upon him, knocking him aside like a toy. The younger tried to run, feet slipping in the mud, heart pounding in terror. But the swamp offered no escape. Vines caught at his ankles, unseen branches tore at his clothes. He fell, scrambled to his feet, and felt for a brief and shuddering moment a cold snout brush the back of his neck. Whatever bravery he'd carried with him drained into the mud. Yet, in that moment, the werewolf did not kill. Instead, it stood behind him, growling low, a sound more sorrowful than angry. It could have finished him, as it had done with the others. But something ancient flickered in its golden gaze. A warning, perhaps, or a test. The young hunter understood. Desperation turned to humility as he lowered his weapon and raised his hands, showing he meant no harm. The werewolf vanished into the mist with ghostly silence, leaving him alive but forever changed. By dawn, the bayou was quiet again, as if nothing had happened. The lost hunters would be mourned as victims of the swamp, their disappearance ascribed to the wilderness's uncaring vastness. The survivors, if any, would carry the tale back, a different story. The land belongs to the shadows, and in the bayou, not every hunter is master of the hunt. The legend of the werewolf would grow, no longer only as the hunted monster, but as the cunning force watching from just beyond the torchlight, a reminder that not all dangers are what they seem, and that those who venture into the wild must decide whether they come seeking conquest, or if, in the end, they are themselves prey to older, wilder laws. So the bayou endures, holding its secrets tight beneath the moss and murky water. On silent, misty nights, the locals still watch the moon's slow rise over the swamp and wonder which side of the hunt they would be on, should the legend of the werewolf again become reality. For in the wild, it is not always clear who is meant to be hunter, and who, in the end, is truly being hunted. Whether you've glimpsed something unexplainable in the twilight, or heard hair-raising tales passed down through generations, your story has a place here. Each encounter, rumor, and whispered secret enriches our community's tapestry of cryptid lore. Dive into the discussion, share your experiences, and connect with fellow enthusiasts who thrive on the mysterious. Together, we keep these legends alive, exploring the unexplained and fueling our fascination for the world's most elusive creatures.